Might ask for a bailout, and we have a little something on banking union on there being a supervisor in place, but I don't see anything new to have emerged from this summit, do you?
Yes, I see. Summit, she said that this this solidarity fund for the Eurozone
proposal coming from Mrs. Merkel, but I mean, we still haven't established how that fund is going to be funded. I mean, she certainly doesn't talk about funding it with Treasury bills or Eurobonds. I mean, she did talk about maybe the proceeds of the financial transaction tax going towards it. But on the whole Eurobond issue and the whole the idea of having a common Eurozone budget, that seems to have gone a bit by the wayside. I was just looking at some of the conclusions. The language on the Eurozone budget seems to have been gutted. The word solidarity is out. Further mechanisms to prevent unsustainable budgetary mechanisms, that is out. It seems as though that her idea for the project fund would still be in there, but certainly nothing on mutualisation of debt.
Well, Marquez, member of the group of Alliance of Liberals, it's great to have you with us. And so lots more coming up on the Pulse. We're going to continue to bring you all the latest. They're going to get the next tranche of aid.
That's right. Show me the money is really what we're talking about. The spin.
If the French are playing devil's advocate to an extent, just when Angela Merkel is a little bit more positive on Greece, you know, we saw perhaps a shift in their position or outward position when she went to that visit in Athens, and yet again now that the French are perhaps at odds with that. It was as though, yes, we don't have the results of the Troika report just yet, but they are going to be asking Greece to do much more in terms of reforms and austerity measures. And you just have to look at the images that we are getting now from Athens, one strike after another. That's going to become politically extremely difficult for Antonis Samaras.
That's right.
The banking supervisor in place by the end of the year. They've also left much of the heavy lifting to be done in 2013 as part of this whole phase-in stage. What does all this mean for the prospect of the direct recapitalization, formalizing or finalizing the legal framework, the legislation surrounding a single bank supervisor? But do you still see divisions? Do you still see problems that could crop up in terms of the nature of the ECB's authority? Will it indeed be the supervisor for all 6,000 banks in the euro area?
I think it will.
Isn't it? We're still not clear on the specifics. And is that going to be enough to satisfy the Sparkassen, which, of course, Angela Merkel can't afford to be upsetting them as she goes into an election year? Legacy assets going to come into focus in the next few months.
I think it will, because...
You're back with The Pulse. I'm Maryam Nemazee here in Brussels, where we've been covering the EU Leaders Summit, and my next guest is an advisor to EU President Herman Van Rompuy, Richard Corbett.
Ahead, but most of them have not actually fallen. There's now quite a track record of step-by-step new...
Each time you try to make progress on one issue, other obstacles crop up. So, for example, when we speak about the single banking supervisor, there is now a great deal of focus on the problem with legacy assets, because you have this great reluctance on the part of the creditor countries, Germany, Finland, the Netherlands. They are worried about having to sort of subsidize assets or sort of essentially assets that were there before the crisis being sort of capitalized by the ESM. How are you going to resolve that?
You remind me
of... because it seems as though this is ultimately a question of cost sharing and liability sharing, and that's what the creditor countries are worried about. And on the other hand, you have countries like Spain and Ireland that need to be able to tap the ESM to ease that debt from their sovereign balance sheets. So how is that going to be resolved? It has to be there, and that's been made very clear, and we know that Spain has to submit to further conditions before they can, you know, tap more financial assistance. But the point here is that unless you sort out the issue of having this banking supervisor in place, you know, unless that can be resolved, you're not going to be able to have direct recapitalization of the banks.
No,
and
but after this...
Well, Guy, we've been live here in Brussels throughout the Pulse, where Europe's leaders have moved perhaps one step closer to some of their key aims. Creating a banking union was very much at the forefront of everybody's minds going into this meeting. Finland's Prime Minister told us that, by and large, he's satisfied.